Our third bacon bit to finally fill up the salad, if that's what you'd like to do, is on a Charlotte player, and that's hail to the victor. Now, not this weekend, because we don't want to see them win, but Victor Reyes. Reyes has played really well for Charlotte this season, and this is a team, again, that struggled, but Reyes is one of the bright spots for a team that offensively hasn't been that great. He leads the team with 17 doubles, 2 triples, 16 home runs, 63 RBIs, and 52 runs scored.
The big reason why the White Sox signed Reyes over the offseason was that they needed depth in the outfield. So he is that guy that if they need to call him up for injuries or because somebody isn't producing, then he is going to be that next available batter. Over his 11-year professional tenure, he's played for the Braves system, Arizona, and most recently spent the last 5 years in Detroit. So this was actually a very easy transition considering Detroit and the Chicago White Sox play all the time. So Peralta has managed to limit offensive production by keeping the ball down low and enticing batters to strike out 32% of the time and limiting his free passes. So the Piggies trying not to chase the low ones tonight. He comes with a simple pitch mix, just 3 pitches, a 4-seam fastball, changeup, and a slider.
Can't tell you how glad I am to see Pitt come back and win that game today. Kept the confidence in me, kept the confidence in I think everybody else in Pittsburgh, thinking it's same old Pitt, same old Pitt. And with this new regime in there, with the new offensive coordinator, they're really looking good and making the comeback like that.
Appreciate the call, Steve. I think another thing we can talk about now is confidence in the offense. We haven't seen that in a couple years, Susie, where you say, hey, this offense can step on the field, and if they need to get points, they can go get them. That hadn't been the case the past couple years, but now they step on the field and say, hey, we got to get points out of this drive. They did it 4 times in a row.
And it just seems like this offense is really buying into what Cade Bell is bringing to this program. Again, we're seeing a really up-tempo play from this Pitt team this season, and I think that resiliency should be noted after today's game. They could have thrown in the towel. They only had 6 points going into that second half. So, where do they turn to? Well, then you see that fourth quarter and all the yardage that they gain. I just think that Cade Bell is coming in there and really kind of turning things around, and that pace is really showing throughout the games.
Let's keep the football talk rolling. Joe in New Kensington, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Not bad. How you doing, Susie?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I was just curious how long Troy Fottono's going to be out.
It's a great question. We talked about that earlier. The fact that he practiced back-to-back days, he was a full participant, I think is a good sign. Whether or not they will allow him to step on the field and be ready for game action because he hasn't played since the first preseason game, maybe it was a precaution that they held him out just to make sure he was ready to go, because granted, they did that with some veterans too, but it's different. Those guys have been playing for a while. Yeah. This would be his first action on an NFL field as an NFL offensive tackle. So, yeah, that's the question. Are they okay with 2 practices of him going full, or do they want to see a little bit more evidence that he's ready to go and they want to make sure he's 100%?
Yeah, and I think it is different. Like you said, there's veterans that they did that with this preseason, but they also know how to navigate those injuries, even if it's just a little one, right? Whereas Fontanu is new to this league. It's going to be a little bit tougher than whenever he was at Washington State, right? So I think having him fully healthy, if he is 100% fully healthy, he doesn't have any pain, whatever it is, then you go and you put him in tomorrow. However, if he still has something a little bit that's bugging him, you might want him to sit out another week or two just to make sure that he's able to navigate just the intensity that he's going to face in the NFL.
We are going into this game with the understanding of the injury report. There's going to be no Alex Highsmith. There's going to be no Jalen Warren. It's been pretty much confirmed today. No Isaac Seumalo. He's been downgraded from doubtful to out. So we could see Mason McCormick starting tomorrow. That's an expectation we're expected to have here. Nick Herbig's going to get his chance as a starter in Highsmith's place. But the thing that's been talked about a lot on the more national, more global scale, Justin Fields and how he's done in 3 games so far as a starting quarterback. He's going into Indy expecting the same thing tomorrow. I think the one thing we could say, if there's nothing else you say about Justin Fields, we've at least seen some form of incremental growth over each of these first 3 games. Going into this game tomorrow, it's an Indianapolis team that, by the way, isn't too good at stopping the run. They may not have one of their best defensive players on the field tomorrow. So, Susie, how does this all stack up for you as far as this matchup with the Steelers and Colts?
I think that the Steelers take it home tomorrow. I think that they go 4-0. Maybe that is a bold prediction for tomorrow. However, they went up against a really good defense for the Chargers last week, and they still pulled out a win, right? Indianapolis hasn't done that well this season, and their defense is 31st in the entire NFL. So if they could get past the Chargers defense, then there's no doubt in my mind that they can get past the Colts defense. On top of that, yeah, they might have a little bit of the injury bug. However, they have been scraping out those wins from the beginning of the season, and I really feel like they have that next man up mentality, and they've been doing that under Justin Fields. So I feel really confident for this team going into tomorrow.
But now we know it's been a full week of Justin Fields in practice. How do you feel about the Steelers being able to do a little bit more on offense, having that full week of Justin Fields getting those reps with the first team?
I truly think that that's actually a positive for this team, right? I mean, they went out at the beginning of this week. Head coach Mike Tomlin said it. You know, we're preparing for this week as if Justin Fields is going to start from the get-go. Russell Wilson was kind of, an afterthought because they don't know what's going to be happening with his calf, and it came out that maybe that calf injury was a little bit worse than they thought. So the fact that they had this full week of practice where they knew that Justin Fields, or they were putting into everybody's mind, they were projecting in everybody's mind, hey, Justin Fields is going to be the starter. I feel like they're going to be a little bit more prepared whenever they go into Denver tomorrow. So I think that it's more of a benefit than anything. However, when people are asking Justin Fields about that this week, he just says, I prepare every single week for the same thing as if I am starting. And he really thinks that that is helping his mindset this season, because I really do think that it is going to be up in the air all year, especially when Russell Wilson gets back.
Now, on top of that, this time last week, we were talking about the situation on the offensive line. We were talking about how Troy Fautanu had been a full participant for a couple days, but it was probably not going to be him starting at right tackle. It was Broderick Jones. This week, Fautanu gets the full week practicing, kind of like Justin Fields, full week practicing with the ones. Looks like he's going to be starting at right tackle. So now the focus is on the other side of the offensive line, whether it's Broderick Jones or Dan Moore, whom I might add, last week, Dan Moore acquitted himself pretty well against Atlanta. I thought the offensive line did their job fairly well. Maybe not as solid in the run game or as consistent, but as far as pass protection went, I thought they did okay. How does that look now with, at least with Fautanu, we know he's starting on the right side. And whether it's Moore or Jones on the left side, how much more confident do you feel about what this offensive line can do now with those changes?
We talked about this last week. I think right now with the offensive line, really everything, again, it's kind of like the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson situation. Everything is really up in the air, because what can this offensive line really produce after last season not being so great? So right now you have all these puzzle pieces that you're trying to put in the correct places. Fautanu at right tackle, who's going to take over at left? Is it going to be Dan Moore, who made himself a case last week, or is Broderick Jones going to go back to his old position? Now, do you give Broderick Jones a game or two off so that he can, heal up a little bit, get back to that left tackle, and then it's him and Fautanu, and it's a really solid offensive line? I'm not sure if that's what you do, but then you also have that healthy option in Dan Moore being the backup. Or you could look at it as Broderick Jones is that healthy backup for either side, either the right or left tackle position. Really, again, I think that this is a good thing. I think everything is looking really positive for the Steelers going into tomorrow.